All right, I'm winging it today. I have no notes. I didn't actually do any sort of a project this week, but I practiced a lot of random stuff. I wanted to do like a bunch of random portraits with charcoal in my little sketchbook. I already know that I don't know what I'm doing. There's like a foundation or a base of what I want to do, and like I can get there eventually, but like if you watch my time lapses or like compare the beginning to the end, the portrait or the face of the person that I'm drawing always morphs into the end product, and it never really turns out, with a couple exceptions, it never really turns out the way that I planned from the beginning. So I'm not very good at making out a plan from the beginning and then sticking to that plan. It's weird because I can see what I want to do in my head, and I can see how I want to do it, and not just in any abstract way. Literally, I see the steps of what I want to do and how it is to be done. Then as soon as I sit down, all of those steps just go out the window. And it's the same for picking a reference. Well, sometimes I have this idea of a reference, or like I want to draw a certain person. You know, I mean, it's no secret that I have obsessions. Sometimes they're fleeting and sometimes they can last like 3 years. Obviously, lately, with listening to the Supernatural Panels like podcasts, the main people that are on my mind are Jared Padalecki and Jensen Ackles, because why would anybody expect anything else? But it's also kind of nice because objectively, they have very angular faces, and Jensen has a very easy face to draw because it's just so proportional. It's pretty evident what I'm interested in if you look at like what I'm drawing at the time. I'm not going to defend myself. I have two brothers that would tease me until the cows come home, but that doesn't matter. Okay, so there's this weird thing with the process, and I realized it this week. I was drawing this first portrait, and it wasn't supposed to be like a finished thing. I was gonna just get like the basics and do the bare minimum so you can look at it and know who it is. That's been my whole interest with drawing portraits, is to get the likeness. And style and everything I've only recently started to think about, or I've only recently started to think about trying it, because I've always had images in my head of what I want things to look like. If I see like a shot in a movie, a TV show or something, or like any sort of a video, and I see an angle or a shot that I'm like, I want to draw that, I always sit down and convince myself against it. It doesn't make any sense. For some reason, there's always a side of me that's like, no, this is stupid. And of course, everyone's gonna know what you're interested in, because depending on how long the obsession lasts, it's gonna come out in the things that I do. But you know what? That doesn't really matter. And I've already decided not to care. But that problem has been at my core for so long that it's gonna take some time to overcome it. So as soon as I sit down, I explain whatever reference I'm gonna do away, and I try to think of something else that's like more universally loved, or less like, this is what Fig is interested in right now. I mean, now that I think about it, I'm not gonna think about that. Well, I've already decided that several times, but easier said than done, you know? But besides that, just getting into the technical side of things, when I sit down and go to draw something, all of a sudden, the method that was in my head, like I can watch myself draw it in my head. Like when I close my eyes and I have a picture that I want to draw, I know what I have to do, but then as soon as I go to do it, all of a sudden I just forget what to do, and so I have to wing it. And it can be a little frustrating, and that's why I just spend so much time on it. Nothing ever really falls in the place that I want it to fall. Things either end up too big or too small, and then I have to adjust without messing with it too much. But I was thinking about it the other day. I mean, I've never gone to school. Well, I've never gone to art school. I took a couple classes in junior high, and that's about it. I have a few family members that have been to art school and were trained, but I've only ever had like a couple pointers, and it was when I was a kid. It was when I was a kid that those family members sat me down and taught me how to like draw a human face. And so I don't really remember the official steps to take in drawing a human head. I do lack a certain method. I've never studied anatomy of the human body, whatever. But here's the thing. There is some foundation. The foundation for the foundation. I want to do it. I can see different parts of the image or the face or the body that I can put on the paper, and I can see the relation that those certain parts have with other parts. Eventually I can get there if I really focus and really make sure that I get it right. But I had never known anything about generally how big is the human skull compared to the rib cage. I guess part of me kind of avoided it, because if I focus too much on how something is supposed to be done, like in the art world, and not enough on what I'm drawing or like where I'm trying to go with it, it doesn't turn out as well as when I just like wing it. Every time I try to do something the way that someone else has done it, or like the way that it's known to do, like these are the steps you take in order to get to this point, it always turns out worse than if I just like follow my instincts. And that's not really just me being defiant. Like I do have a defiant part of me where like if someone tells me that I need to do something a certain way, I'm just like no, and I try to prove that I can get to the destination a different way, and like it doesn't have to be set in stone, like the method doesn't have to be set in stone. But if I get too caught up in a method, I kind of lose the, what's the word, organic. I try to emulate other people too much. It's not out of defiance, really. It's just there's something in my brain, and I know how I want it to look in my brain. But if I try to do what other people do, it'll look too much like that person's style or like what they do, and it won't look anything like what I have in my head. That is not to say, like, all that being said, there is so much benefit in the methods that people use. So that's why this week I wanted to study a little bit of anatomy. I wanted to just study the bare bones, so to speak. I didn't want to study like, okay, what are the steps to draw a rib cage or a skull? How many lines am I supposed to draw? Where am I supposed to draw them? I wanted to basically just get the proportions. Generally, how many skulls does it take to make up a human leg? Or how many skulls is in a rib cage? And the reason I wanted to go so basic is because I get so caught up in like making everything perfect that I want to leave as much room to breathe as possible. I wanted to get the very, very basics and not put too much in my brain, because the main thing that I do or like want to do is not to come up with OCs or like original characters and like come up with people off the top of my head. The people who do that are so much better than me and more creative. I want to do that, and maybe someday I'll get to that point. But like right now, like the thing that I enjoy doing is making something look like a person. Not everybody is shaped the same way. Not all skeletal structures are identical. And this is like, this is pretty much common knowledge among all artists and stuff. But if I know what's going on beneath the surface, it's a lot easier for me to get the proportions right. I noticed that while I was drawing that first portrait, I didn't really have that foundation. It's not that I wanted to have a step-by-step, like, how do I draw a human face? I already kind of know how to draw a human face, or at least getting everything in relation to each other, like how to get that for the most part. Like there's always room to improve, and obviously like with lights and shadows and stuff, that is something that I really want to work on. So, oh man, is this video gonna be like super long? By the way, I haven't even finished anything yet. I have a million different things that I've been doing, and none of them are done. This whole week, the end of the week before last, if I post this like on the 17th or 18th or something, it'll be 2 weeks ago. I got really sick. It was a little weird. It was like the flu, but it had some mental effects that I've never had with the flu. Like I couldn't daydream. That was the weirdest thing. It was also really difficult. When I say I've been working on a million different things, like I mean it. I have a bigger project that's gonna hopefully come out in a few months. It's just a cross stitch. Cross stitching is like a glorified color by number, so it's therapeutic and it's relaxing for me. For some reason, while I was sick, at the peak of this sickness, I couldn't even concentrate on the cross stitch. I still really tried to move forward on just a little bit on a bunch of different things. That's why I started this coloring book page, because I was like, I'm not gonna be able to do anything substantial this week. That's when I decided to just do like some quick sketches of people's faces, and it wasn't just going to be Jen's Knuckles. It was going to be a bunch of people. I did the first one with charcoal, and I was like, man, it's okay. Like, it looks like him. There's a freedom that I lack, but I didn't want to confine myself to a step-by-step guide. I wanted to know, like, the inner workings of everything, like, why I put things in a certain place. I don't know. That is the most sense I can make of it. I want to know the why, and not just what. So that's what I started to do. The first few were a little bit rough. I tried to make up a couple, and those are the ones that I crossed out. It was actually kind of therapeutic. Just to like do extremely rough sketches of a human skeleton and not really worry about the individual bones, just to make it impressionistic, I guess. And then after a while, I stopped trying to make it look like a skeleton and just did like a literal skeleton, just like sticks and circles for joints, and then like general shape of the skull and everything. And so like the videos that I was watching on YouTube while I was doing this, I was taking screenshots and then drawing the skeleton of the person that I was watching and trying to like squint and guess where their skeleton would be. And I think it turned out pretty okay. And then the very last thing I did was last night. It was a little bit more difficult because I guess the bigger the picture, the more difficult it is for me to get it all in my eyes. You can kind of tell who it is, but I didn't want to make it look exactly like him. It was supposed to be just a general quick sketch. As long as you can tell that he's folding his arms and like which way he's looking and the angle of his head and everything, I was okay with it. It has actually helped, and just the few pictures that I've done, or the few sketches that I've done, have helped me understand the inner workings of the human body a little bit more. And the human skull. I don't want it to sound like I'm defiant, because even though I do have that defiant side of me, my respect for like professional artists and, you know, people who go to school is through the roof. But there's also another side of me that thinks that everyone is better than me at everything. And so looking at someone else's methods, it always makes me question my instincts. But it's not that my instincts contradict anybody's method. But because I'm having to learn by myself, I don't want to just like learn the methods and not know why those methods exist. It's kind of like, you know, here's a good example. Because I've been watching so many supernatural panels, let me just describe something that Jared and Jensen were talking about a little bit. Jared and Jensen never went to college for acting. Like, they never went to acting school. Something that they've talked about a little bit is when like someone, like a guest star, comes in and they over rehearse their lines. They have a certain way that someone has told them, like, this is the way you rehearse this kind of a line. And then they get so caught up in like that rule that they are pretty rigid. They're not very flexible and they can't play with the other person. When Jared and Jensen tell the story of how they met in the audition and everything, they weren't so caught up in this is how I deliver this line that they couldn't have some leeway and flexibility with it.
We read the scene together for the first time in front of 30 suits. Immediately I was like, oh, this guy knows how to play. This guy, I can play ball with this guy. Like, immediately, there was a sensibility that he had with his delivery. He was reacting to everything I was saying, and it felt really natural. So, super.
Translate it into like what I'm doing. It's not that I don't respect the method or the rules. It's that I really want to understand why something works the way it does. I don't want to be so rigid that I can't be flexible in what I do. Hopefully that translates. You know, my sister always gets on my case for defending my arguments, and it's not even like I'm making any arguments. It's just, or defending my opinions. And it's not even like I have any opinions, but like I've always been that way. I've always had that defiant bone in my body, but I've always thought that everybody knows more than me, and so if they have a method, then I'm just gonna follow that method blindly. And it goes with anything. Like, I watch what someone does and then I try to emulate that without knowing what they're actually doing, and then it just doesn't work, and I can't do things on my own. And that's one of the reasons one of the reasons that in the past I haven't thought that I was very creative, because I didn't really allow myself to try to come up with anything on my own. But there is this instinctual side of, I think, everybody. When people get too caught up in how something is supposed to be done, you kind of suffocate that instinct. And I think everybody has that instinct, but a lot of people are just too afraid to tap into that instinct. And it doesn't matter what field it's in. This is just speaking artistically, like in the creative side of things, not talking about engineering or, you know, when physics and math are involved. But even then, you know, Tesla and Einstein, those dudes were tapped into something. I think everybody has that instinct in stuff that they want to do, but there are rules that have been established for some reason that people don't think they can deviate from, just speaking like creatively. Okay, here's an example. The way that I title my YouTube videos, technically, there is a way to get more attention, but I don't like the idea of following that because it's not really my personality. Titling my videos the way that it's quote unquote supposed to be done, it doesn't sound like me. And so to me, it's just kind of cringy. If I try to do that, it's just like, all right, well, now I'm just like everyone else, but also like this isn't really what I would do. My personality is just to title it nonsense, and so nobody that scrolls past knows what I'm talking about, but I love that. Like, for some reason, having a nonsensical title, and not completely nonsensical, like I still want it to have something to do with like what is in the video, but it's almost beautiful. It's so much fun. That is a little bit of the defiant side of me. You know, like I know that I could always use hashtags and stuff, but I don't really want to, because it's one of those things, like I would rather have just a few people watch what I do rather than have like so many people watch just for entertainment and it not really having an effect on people. Man, this is all sounding a lot more cheesy than I wanted it to sound. But yeah, I think everybody has that instinct. And I think more people need to tap into that instinct. I think, me included, so many people are so afraid to tap into that instinct that they don't know what they want to do. And I still have like a long way to go on this. Because it's so much easier said than done, unless you're just naturally inclined this way. But it's not until you tap into the instinct. I'm talking about it like it's a force of nature. I don't want to say stop worrying about what people think, because everybody says that, but that is what it is. And I'm basically just talking to myself right now. It's not until you stop worrying about what other people want you to do. I mean, it might not happen immediately. It might be gradual, but when that happens, you kind of realize what you want to do. And it might not be what you thought you wanted to do. Because when I was 12 to 14, I thought that art and drawing was like the worst thing I could possibly do. It made me so miserable. But I don't know, it's, I guess I was just, I don't want to say tapping into the instinct again, because I've said it 17 times. I stopped worrying about what other people wanted me to do. Which is funny, because they all wanted me to draw, but I wanted to do it because I wanted to do it, and not because other people wanted me to do it. And like I said in the last video, I think I said this in the last video, it's not that I don't like doing what people want me to do. I like making people happy, and I love doing what people want me to do creatively. When it comes to like art and stuff, I don't know. I'm probably gonna cut all this out. I'm basically just giving myself therapy right now. But with the instinct, I think there has to be a few guidelines. So that's why I want to learn what is beneath the surface, so that I can intuit what is going on the surface. That didn't make any sense. I lack a certain intuition, and I want to develop that, and so that is what I've been trying to do this week. Ironic, because when I was sick, I literally couldn't. Like, I couldn't daydream, I couldn't formulate thoughts. It was weird. I just wanted to think again. I want to know how things work and like the rules that I need to know, but I also want to remain flexible and not worry so much about the methods of other people and trying to emulate that. To me, they're more like tips. Like, here's something that you can try to make it easier on yourself, but I don't want to look at them as like rules. And it goes with, you know, themes too. I have no theme for this video. The backdrop is probably going to be the coloring book page, and then throwing in some images of my sketches, and then what? I have nothing else. It's just my stick figure that's probably going to be through most of this. Yeah, I think everyone has that instinct, and not enough people tap into it or think that they can. Again, a lot of people don't know what they want to do. I still don't really, except for this stuff. But, I don't know. Just sit back and think for a second.